You're in the middle of a fight and you have said everything that you know how to say. You've explained your point clearly, maybe more than once, and you've tried your best to stay calm. You've not even raised your voice. At least you've tried not to raise your voice. And somehow it still keeps escalating. Your partner gets louder, or they shut down completely, or they bring up something from 3 years ago, and now you're relitigating 2021 instead of talking about what actually started this. And you're standing there thinking, what is left to say? Here's what I want you to know. The problem is not that you've not said enough. The problem is that you're trying to reach someone whose nervous system cannot hear you right now. And today I'm going to give you 4 words that can interrupt that cycle, usually in under 60 seconds. 4 words that are so counterintuitive that when I first heard them as a licensed couples therapist, I had to push back hard until I tried them in my own marriage. So stay with me, because this one could change things for you. If you've been in a long-term relationship for more than a few years, you know the pattern. The fight starts somewhere small. The dishes, a tone, a text that got a 1-word answer or no response at all, a plan that got changed without asking, and within 10 minutes, you're somehow fighting about whether you have ever actually been listened to in this relationship. I want to name something before we go any further because I think it matters. That pattern, that same fight that keeps cycling back, is not evidence usually that your relationship is broken. It's not evidence that you married the wrong person usually. That is not even evidence that you're both bad at communication, even though sometimes that can happen. What it is usually is a nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do when it senses threat. When we feel criticized or dismissed or emotionally unsafe by someone we love, the brain does not distinguish between emotional danger and physical danger. And the same threat system activates. And from inside that activation, you cannot have a productive, connected conversation. The brain is in survival mode. And you simply cannot logic your way out of a survival response. Not in the moment, not when you are flooded. So if you've been carrying the weight of thinking that you're just not good enough at this, that you should have the right words by now, I want you to set that down for a minute. The reason it has not worked is not about your effort usually. It's about the biology of what happens in a fight. And once you understand that, something can potentially shift. There's a specific moment in every argument usually where the conversation stops being about the actual issue. And I want to give it a name because naming it is half of catching it. I call it the flip. The flip is the moment when both people stop trying to solve the problem and start trying to protect themselves. You go from partners with a shared problem to opponents with competing stories, from we have conflict to you are the conflict. And once the flip happens, there's almost no rational path back. You can try to explain more clearly. You can try to de-escalate by making a reasonable argument. You can try to stay calm while the other person is not calm. Most people do all of these things, and most of them do not work because the flip is not a logical problem. It's a nervous system problem. Here's what's happening physiologically in the moment. John Gottman's research found that during relational conflict, when heart rate climbs about to 100 beats per minute, something called flooding happens. The prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for empathy, nuance, curiosity, and problem solving, essentially goes offline. You're no longer operating from the part of your brain that can actually hear your partner. And here is what makes this so hard. Both of you are in that state at the same time. 2 flooded nervous systems cannot reach each other. And the instinct that most couples have in that moment is to try harder, to say the thing louder, to explain the thing better, to stay until the other person finally understands. Boy, have I been there. But you are both unreachable in that moment, and no amount of effort inside that state changes that usually. Real quick, before we go any further, drop in the comments right now, how long has this same fight been cycling in your relationship? A few months, a few years, over a decade? I read every comment, and I promise you, whatever your number is, you're not alone. Okay, so here is where the 4 words come in. And I want to be real with you about why I resisted this when I first learned it, because I think you're going to feel the same resistance, and I want to name it before you do. So these 4 words feel like losing. They feel like admitting that you were wrong when you know you weren't wrong. They feel like giving up ground in the middle of a fight that you already have been having for years. I get it. I have felt exactly that way. My husband and I went through this period in our marriage where the same fight kept coming back no matter how many times we resolved it. And I'm a therapist. I know the research. I know the tools. And we were still stuck in that loop. And the first time I tried what I'm about to share with you, I genuinely didn't believe it would work. I said it with about 40% conviction, and what actually happened after stopped me completely. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So let me give you the phrase first. The 4 words are, you might be right. That's it. You might be right. I already know what just happened in your head. You thought, but what if you're not right? What if the one that is right? Now I know what just happened in your head. You thought, but what if they are not right? What if I am the one who is right and they just refuse to hear me? I hear you. Stay with me. You might be right is not a concession. It's not admission of guilt. It is not saying that version of events is accurate and yours is not. It's not waving a little white flag. What it is a signal to your partner's nervous system that you're open, that you're not fighting to win this round, that you're willing to hear them, that there is enough safety to stop defending. And that signal does something extraordinary to the brain. It interrupts the flip because your partner's nervous system was armored up for more escalation. It was braced. And when you say, you might be right, the brain genuinely doesn't know what to do with that. The expected threat did not arrive. And I've sat in the room with couples who've been fighting the same fight for a very long time. I've watched the energy in the room change in a few moments after one of them has said this phrase, not because the problem was solved, but because one person just created enough safety for the other to stop fighting for a moment. And that is what you might be right can do in under 60 seconds sometimes. It does not fix everything, but it creates the conditions where something can actually be fixed. Okay. We're about halfway through, and I have to be honest with you. I'm not going to give you a magic phrase and just walk away, because there's a way to use this that actually works, and there's a way to use this that will make things worse. And most people make the mistake that I'm about to describe. So stay with me for the second half of this video, because what is coming next is the piece that actually determines whether any of this lands. Here's the mistake that people make when they first try, you might be right. They say it as a pause button. They say it and then they wait. They say it while still thinking, okay, now calm down so I can go back to making my point. And that's not going to work. And your partner will feel the difference immediately. The phrase opens the door. You have to actually be willing to walk through it. And walking through it means following, you might be right, with genuine curiosity. Something like, you might be right, help me understand what you're seeing. Or, you might be right, tell me what this felt like from where you're standing. You're not abandoning your perspective. You are temporarily setting it down so your partner can actually feel heard. And here's the clinical truth underneath this. Most arguments in relationships are not fundamentally about who is factually correct. They are about who feels seen. The moment one person in an argument genuinely tries to see the other, the threat level drops. Both nervous systems start to come back online. And now, for the first time in that conversation, you may actually be able to talk. And remember how I told you about using this in my own marriage? The first time I said it, mid-argument, my husband stopped mid-sentence and he looked at me and I watched his whole body exhale. And then he said something I'd never quite heard him say in these words. And he said, I just need you to know that I feel like you don't hear me. And that was what the real fight was about, not the thing that we were actually arguing about. And we never could have gotten there if the threat level had stayed where it was. And this is what these 4 words can do. I also want to name something real, because I'm not going to pretend that this is easy. Going first, reaching across in the middle of a fire, that is hard. It's especially hard if you're the person that has been going first for a long time. And if you're the one who always de-escalates while your partner stays activated, this is a real, valid, important thing to examine, and it's a different conversation. What I can tell you is this: going first breaks the pattern, and breaking the pattern even once creates a new option that did not exist before, and that matters. So here's the reframe that I want to leave with you. Most of us were taught somewhere along the way that in an argument, you're supposed to make your case, and you're supposed to be clear and firm. You're supposed to make sure the other person understands you. And if they don't understand you, you say it again, differently or louder. And nobody taught us that the goal of an argument in a relationship is not to win. The goal is to reconnect, to come back to the place where you both remember that you're on the same team, and that this person across from you is not your opponent. They are your person, and they are scared and hurt or overwhelmed, and so are you. You might be right is a signal. It says, I care more about us than I care about being correct right now. And when you build a relationship where both people can say that to each other, not perfectly, not every time, but in the hard moments when it costs something to say it, that is when something could potentially change in your relationship. And if you've been in the same fight for a few months or years and you've started to wonder whether it can actually change, I want you to try this one thing before you decide if it feels right to you. One argument, 4 words, see what happens. So if this landed for you and you want to go deeper, I have a free resource called the Conflict Decoder. It's in the description and pinned in the comments below, and it walks you through the actual pattern underneath the fight that keeps cycling. And if you have a partner who needs to hear this, send them the video. You don't have to set up a conversation about the conversation. Just press share and drop a comment below. Tell me, how long has this fight been cycling in your relationship, and are you going to try this phrase? I genuinely want to know. And I'll see you next week. And follow along for more resources here. And hit the subscribe button so that you'll see all the new goodies that I have supporting relationships.